Good evening, everyone. This is take 3. If you've been on my Facebook page, you realize that I've been trying to go live for a good while. I tried this morning, my time, and the signals went because we've moved, and I've been trying to get our Wi-Fi set up for the last 2 weeks. They canceled it, I had to do it again, and so today I popped out and got one of these dongle things. And it's taken me a long time to set up because the technical people aren't home. I'm home alone. And so I'm not technical. So I had to go to YouTube to look at a video of how to set up. Anyway, thank you for those who have messaged me and said the video that you were doing was very good. Please, can you do it again? Because the sound went. So I'm hoping that we'll get really good signals with this mini hub thing that I'm going to be using for the next week or so until our Wi-Fi is installed. For those who are new to our YouTube or our Facebook page, my name is Joanna Daniel. I'm a counselor and I'm the founder of Wounds to Scars, where we work with adult survivors of childhood trauma and women who experience abuse. And so everything I do in this space is around healing from trauma that we experience in childhood. Okay, healing from trauma. So today I'm talking about three ways the rejection, neglect, and abandonment that we experience in childhood, how they show up in us as adults. 3 ways. So this came about because I was at a conference last week and I was speaking on the impact of childhood trauma on mental health. And a gentleman came up to me and said, my mother left when I was 8 and I am okay. And I thought, some people are okay, some people are not okay. But what we don't want to do is take it for granted that people are okay. And sometimes even the people who tell me that they're okay, what they mean is, Mom and I have a good relationship now, which is fantastic. I've forgiven Mom. I understand why she did what she did. I understand why my parents did what they did. And so I'm okay. But what they can't see, and what is often not as obvious to us, is just the subtle ways that this neglect and abandonment shows up. Now, thank you for those who are joining. Now, the parent wouldn't call it neglect and abandonment. And when I do this, I talk a lot to Afro-Caribbean people in the Afro-Caribbean community, or indeed any community where your parents had to leave and travel for work or go abroad to work and leave you with an adult or another caregiver. A child experienced that as attachment injuries, okay? And though we understand what is happening and why, when we're an adult, we need to understand the wounds that the child experienced and what we can do to heal those wounds, because they disrupt so many things. And we oftentimes, without help from somebody like myself, it's very difficult to identify it as the rejection, the abandonment, the neglect, the being left that happened. I also have to say that sometimes children experience neglect and abandonment even when the parent was in the home, even when the parent were present, because there's some parents that work really hard. They are often not available emotionally for the parents that is present physically, not present emotionally. All of those things are factors that contribute to the feeling of neglect, the feeling of abandonment. So there's physical neglect and rejection and abandonment, and there is emotional rejection and abandonment that a child will experience, and all of them will play a part in how we show up as adults, how we function relationally. It's important to know this. So though as a 58-year-old man or woman or a 40 or a 30-year-old, you understand the neglected child needs something to help them, right? So here are some ways. And of course, there's a longer list than this. I'm only talking about 3 ways. What I'd like you to do for yourself is look at, how does it show up for me? How does it show up for me? So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the push, how we push people away. When you experience neglect, rejection, abandonment, you might find that you push people away. And there are different ways that you can push people away without, of course, not physically pushing people away. but how you can allow people in emotionally to get into those places where their presence in your life will make a real difference. How you do that. And sometimes we do that by even abandoning self. We abandon self by not looking after self. We abandon self by not eating right, by not getting enough rest. Sometimes we abandon self by going into patterns of relationships that are harmful, going in, doing the same thing over and over again, sometimes without knowledge of why we're doing it. We know this type of relationship, these type of people won't serve me, but there is a pattern that exists. And because that patterns exist, we're repeating the same cycle over and over again. So we push people away by ending relationships before we believe others will. So when we have experienced abandonment and rejection, there is this story that we tell ourselves that people leave because you were left at 5, at 8, at 12, whatever the age was, you were left. And so there's a story that you tell yourself that people leave because the important people left. The important people weren't available for you emotionally. And so that's the story. And so sometimes relationships are ended early before it might feel too good. It might feel too good, and there's this thing that is too good to be true. These people really show like they care. Nobody has ever cared. People, when they care, they tend to leave. So I won't allow these people to stay long enough to care for me because it's going to hurt too much. It's going to hurt too much if I let them in and I allow them to care for me and love me, and then they leave. It's going to hurt too much. So what I'll do is I'll cut them off now to spare myself the hurt. And that's what people do sometimes. Let me cut them off now to spare myself the hurt. When we want to heal that, we literally have to learn how to allow love in. We have to learn how to allow love in. And so in those spaces where the wounds are, that we allow people to love us. And that takes time to allow love to come in. So that's number one. Number two is the way we relate to others shows also the pattern of rejection. The way you relate to others, you might see there's a push-pull element in all your relationships. So here is how that works. You might meet people and you deep dive in. You go all in. You're telling them about yourself. You're sharing all of your stories. You're doing this front end in the relationship by sharing and oversharing and giving so much of yourself. Even that is a subtle way to sabotage a relationship, because for the people who use this pattern, that when you do all of that front loading, when you do all of that giving and pouring in and sharing too much of you, that the people often who come into your life can't manage all of that. And so what people will do is tend to back away. And so you do that really quickly. Let me see who is going to stay and who is going to go. It's kind of like, let me throw something on the wall and what sticks. Let me see who will stay and who will go. People will leave. Sometimes people leave, which fulfill the prophecy for you that people leave. See, nobody stays. I just bared my soul. I told them all about myself and they left. That's because, friends, you're not telling the right people your story. Not everybody, was it Brene Brown that says, not everybody has earned the right to hear your story. So the people who you're sharing with, for them, it might be oversharing. However, when that wound of rejection is healed and you've met the right people, it won't be oversharing. They'll know how to manage your story, how to hear it in context, and how to love you through it anyway. Sometimes for the people who follow that push-pull and just do all of the oversharing, oftentimes you're the ones that leave because you feel embarrassed, there's some shame around sharing too much, and then you leave because you feel embarrassed. And so you're the one that's doing the ghosting, you're the one that's not allowing, you're the one that's embarrassed by that. You feel you've overshared. And so you will do the ghosting because of that. Sometimes I meet people and they'll be sharing with me and I'm listening and they go, I talk a lot. I'm sorry, I talk a lot. Or I'm telling you too much. I'm dumping all of this on you. And for me, when I make time to listen, it's never dumping, never oversharing, never any of those things. And it's not because I'm a counselor and I learned how to do it in my job. That really does help. But it's also because I know that when you're taking the time to share that much of you, I know it's really important that I be present and I listen. So that's what I do. But some people tend to disappear after and stay a long time away because they're afraid, like, are they going to leave? Are they going to stay? Will they call me back? Will they invite me around again? I don't feel worthy of having these people in my life. And so then there's this push-pull thing going on. The number 3 is casual relationships, where nobody is allowed close enough to impact you in any way, whether that's good or bad. Nobody's allowed close enough to impact you in any way. So relationships are sabotaged really early so that nobody gets close enough to hurt you, you think. And that's the rejection and the abandonment speaking. If I allow people close enough, they're going to leave. So I'm not allowing anybody that close to me. So I'll have lots of acquaintances, but nobody that's close enough to hurt me. All of this can be unlearned. You can unlearn how to stop push people away. You can unlearn ways of relating that you're sharing incrementally and you're not giving all of yourself away all at once. You can learn not to sabotage relationships by not allowing anybody close. And so learn how to develop long-term, sustainable, healthy relationships where there is you and there's this other person existing in a healthy pattern. That is possible. I want to end with this verse. I work mostly in the Christian community. Beloved, I wish above all things that you'll prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. So if you've experienced a rejection and abandonment where a parent has left, or your parents have experienced, there was divorce or separation, and you were separated from one parent, that's how the child would read that, like they left, because they did. And so learning how to heal that wound, to have healthy, safe relationships is a journey worth taking. And you are worth it. You are worth it to understand it, to heal it, and to be free. Thank you for being patient. Thank you for joining me. I hope all this Wi-Fi situation has been sorted, and we can go back to our regular videos without any kind of glitches. I hope I'll see you tomorrow, where I'm going to talk about 7 self-defeating behaviors that you need to stop in order to have healthy relationships. What are those self-defeating behaviors? How do we do them? How do we develop them? Where do they come from? Join me tomorrow. Take care.